Good morning. It's Wednesday, September 9th, and we're going to continue our discussion on the subject of will with a prompt from the Daily Stoic, which reads, "Do I rule my fears, or do they rule me?" So it's easy to see why so many concepts in this Stoic school of thought are timeless and have propagated through millennia of passed along wisdom. So often, I come across a message like today's that is just as relevant for me at age 39 as it is for my 6-year-old son. The kind of conversation that I find myself having with him when we're one-on-one before bed at night, for example, is the same reminder I have to often tell myself from time to time. And that's because fear is a very natural emotion. From an evolutionary perspective, it has to be. We wouldn't last long enough to produce future generations without it. But we also let it be more complicated than it needs to be. And as it relates to fear, there is a difference between being scared and being afraid. Being scared is a natural reaction to external events beyond our control. It's an immediate precognitive impression that forms, a fantasia in ancient Greek lexicon. As Seneca would say, no amount of training or wisdom could prevent us from having them. But what matters most is what we do after that immediate reaction. Do we limit the feeling to just being scared, which is just a temporary rush of feeling, that sympathetic nervous system response that produces fight or flight arousal? Or do we allow ourselves to become afraid, which is an ongoing process, a state of being, almost a paralyzation of sorts? I don't think anyone would argue the fact that the answer to that is obvious. Yet how often do we forget to rule over our fears and instead let them rule us? And that's why the famous words spoken by FDR are just as relevant for a father-son chat as they are for a personal pep talk that I might find myself having with myself from time to time. Roosevelt remarked, "Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance." And so to this point, I found myself explaining as much to Cole as to myself what Epictetus taught his students, that Socrates used to tell them to call such fears hobgoblins. And rightly so. Just as masks scare and frighten children, since they haven't seen them before, we react to events in much the same way, for much the same reason. But our goal, as with all impressions, is to ask who they are and what they represent. We take the mask off and see what's behind it. And more often than not, it's not what we feared. And that's the essential key to being scared versus allowing ourselves to be afraid. And there is a difference. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.